I had a neck brace fitted years ago, and I've never looked back since. Today, I'm going to recap a 1997 action thriller film called Con Air. A quick warning, there will be major spoilers ahead. Cameron Poe, an honorably discharged United States Army Ranger, is found guilty of manslaughter in the death of an innocent but drunk bar customer, while trying to defend his pregnant wife Tricia from him, and sentenced to 7 to 10 years by a biased judge. During his time in prison, he communicates with his wife and daughter while taking time to better himself. 8 years later, Poe is released on parole and is scheduled to be flown back to Alabama on the same day as his daughter Casey's 7th birthday. Poe is arranged transport on the Jailbird, a C-123 airplane, along with a fellow prisoner Mike "Baby O" Odell. This prison transfer flight is being used by U.S. Marshal Vince Larkin to transport a number of notorious violent criminals to a new supermax prison. These include William Billy Bedlam Bedford, convicted of murdering his wife's entire family after he caught her in bed with another man; Nathan Diamond Dog Jones, a black supremacist who bombed an NRA meeting claiming that they represented the basest negativity of the white race, then wrote a New York Times bestseller from prison that apparently is getting a movie adaptation starring Denzel Washington; Johnny 23 Bacca, a serial rapist; Joe Pinball Parker, and perhaps the most violent criminal in the prison system, Cyrus the Virus Grissom, who served time for kidnapping, robbery, murder, and extortion, shanked 11 inmates, incited 3 prison riots, and escaped from prison twice, and likes to brag that he's killed more men than cancer. Prior to the flight, Larkin is approached by DEA's agent Duncan Malloy, who asked to put undercover agent Willie Sims on board the plane to get more information out of drug lord Francisco Cindino before he is incarcerated in the new prison. Larkin acquiesces, but insists the agent go aboard unarmed, but Malloy is able to sneak Sims a gun during the boarding pat-down. Shortly after the flight takes off, Jones and Grissom are able to free themselves with the help of a distraction by another prisoner, Pinball Parker setting the inmate next to him on fire. The prisoners quickly subdue the guards, and Cyrus heads up to the cockpit and quickly kills the co-pilot who came out to settle the riot. Cyrus seizes the co-pilot's pistol, then quickly takes control of the cockpit to prevent the pilot from reporting the riot and telling the next control center that a small disturbance occurred but is under control. As Pinball is uncuffing the prisoners, Sims attempts to threaten Grissom with Pinball as his hostage, but Poe, recognizing that Sims is at a disadvantage since his hostage is a worthless prisoner like Pinball, attempts to talk the agent out of it. Sims ignores the advice and is killed. As Cyrus organizes the other prisoners to prepare for a scheduled landing in Carson City in order to meet the required number of prisoners being transferred, Pinball informs Cyrus that some of the prisoners that were scheduled to get off were killed during the takeover. Poe initially decides to get off, hoping to expose the takeover, but reconsiders when he discovers they are placing tape over the mouths of the transferees who are getting off as a precaution, and the pilot is transferred off in his place. His main reason for staying is that Odell is a diabetic, and the injection needles for his insulin were damaged in the takeover and are unusable, so he needs to find a way to help him. Also, Johnny 23 is after the only female guard on the plane, Sally Bishop, despite the fact that Cyrus, who also shares a strong disgust towards rapists, has threatened to kill Johnny if he attempts to rape her. Poe spots a recording device on Sims' body. He transfers it to one of the guards that are being substituted for dead prisoners, hoping it would attract the attention of the guards on the prison bus. Upon landing to refuel and pick up more prisoners to take them to freedom, Cyrus ensures that the prison transfer goes smoothly. Among the new prisoners boarding are drug lord Francisco Cindino, the mastermind of the escape, and who Sims was sent to interrogate; transvestite serial killer Ramon Sally Can't Dance Martinez; their new pilot, Swamp Thing Williams, and cannibal serial killer Garland Green, known as the Marietta Mangler. Grissom instructs Pinball to hide the plane's transponder, and despite Poe's efforts, the plane leaves Carson City without problems, even though the guards on the prison bus discover the true identity of the prisoners on the bus, and backup arrives too late because the prisoners spotted their vehicles approaching the runway. Around that time, Larkin discovers the plans for the plane's takeover in Cyrus's old jail cell, and narrowly avoids getting killed on his way out when one of the guards disregards his advice, and opens a small cigar box that has a bomb hidden inside it. After Larkin and Malloy discover what happened, Larkin, having heard about Poe from one of their guards, suspects Poe is on their side. Malloy, against Larkin's advice, immediately takes off to follow the plane's transponder, which unknown to him was snuck aboard a sightseeing plane. Poe, along with Jones, go into the hull to determine the cause of the plane's slow speed and find that Pinball's body is lodged in the landing wheel compartment, having missed the plane taking off. Poe takes the opportunity to write a message on Parker's shirt to Larkin and pushes the body out of the plane, where it lands in the middle of traffic in Fresno, California. Larkin has a meeting with Tricia and Casey to determine why Poe chose to stay on the plane when a call comes in from Fresno police, and Larkin is quickly made aware of the message. Larkin recognizes that the prisoner's plane is headed in the opposite direction to the disused Lerner airfield. Unable to convince Malloy of this information over the radio, he borrows Malloy's Corvette to make it to the field before the plane can land, calling in the National Guard and other forces to help secure the airfield. Aboard the plane, Poe attempts to keep his identity secret, killing Bedford when he discovers Poe's parole letter in the personal belongings in the hull. Poe learns from Grissom that Sandino is promising that once they land at Lerner, another plane will be waiting for them to help them gain asylum in non-extradition territory. The plane lands at the airfield, running aground, but no plane seems to be waiting for them. While the rest of the prisoners are forced by Grissom to dig out the plane, after Poe warns him about trusting Sandino, based on what he heard about Sandino's past treachery. Poe explores the field to try to find an injection needle for Odell's insulin, whom was going into diabetic shock. Larkin, also on the field, happens upon the plane that Sandino promised, finding that Sandino has double-crossed Grissom and trying to flee on his own, and helps rescue Poe from Sandino's henchmen who are there waiting for their boss. Larkin and Poe briefly meet and discuss the situation before Poe leaves to find an injection needle. Sandino slips away from the other prisoners to board his plane and has his pilot take off. Larkin is able to disable the plane, and the crash alerts Grissom, who throws a lead match at the fuel leaking from Sandino's plane, starting a fire and burning Sandino alive. The prisoners observe that armed forces are advancing on the field, and upon Cyrus discovering the small arsenal hidden in the bottom of the plane and Bedford's body, they set up an ambush trap for the forces. Larkin goes off to help stop the troops from being massacred by reactivating an old unused plow and using it to create a makeshift bulletproof shield, while Poe manages to find an injection needle and returns to the plane to give Odell his insulin and manages to stop Johnny from raping Bishop. As the troops overrun the trap, Grissom and the remaining prisoners return to the plane and take off, despite damage to the plane and before Poe could escape with Odell and Bishop. Grissom soon discovers Poe's true identity after Jones found Poe's parole letter. After shooting Odell in the stomach, who tried to take the blame, Cyrus prepares to kill Poe. Malloy, having recognized that Larkin was telling the truth earlier, upon encountering the sightseeing plane, has tracked down the jailbird. He has his helicopter pilot open fire on it and disables one of the engines, causing the plane to lose fuel. With Grissom and the others distracted, shooting from the aircraft's ramp at the helicopters, Poe gains control of the cockpit after hand-to-hand combat with prisoners in his path and orders not to fire. When Larkin in his second helicopter tells Malloy about Poe's identity as a parolee, Malloy orders hold fire and joins forces. Attempting to land the aircraft at McCarran International Airport in Las Vegas, the crippled jailbird is forced to crash land on the Strip. The landing causes injuries and fatalities among the inmates, while also causing massive destruction along the Strip, until it comes to a halt in the lobby of the Sands Hotel. Amid the chaos, Poe is thanked by both Odell and Bishop for his help as the police arrest the surviving prisoners. Grissom, Jones, and Swamp Thing escape on a fire truck. Larkin and Poe see them trying to flee, pursue them on motorcycles, eventually killing all three escapees, Jones being hit by Poe's motorbike, Swamp Thing hurtling through the windshield and being run over, after Larkin floods the inside of the fire truck with water from the fire hose. Cyrus, being beaten by Poe, handcuffed to the fire ladder, and then sent flying after the truck crashes, leaving Cyrus to be crushed by a pile driver in a nearby construction site. Poe is finally able to reunite with his loving wife and daughter, who have been brought by Larkin to meet him. In the final scene, a croupier at a crab stable in one of the Vegas casinos asks a new shooter if he feels lucky. The shooter, Garland Green, whom is the only prisoner who escaped, takes the dice, sips a margarita and replies without a smile. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy, hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice just to be sure. You should watch the full movie. Thank you very much for watching.